Hello, and welcome to another skills video for Excel 2019-365. This is the answer key to our first unit end hands-on exercise. I'm going to assume that you are comfortable with your windows resized as we demonstrated in the how-to video. If you want to take a moment to get your windows arranged this way, you may. Otherwise, we will go ahead and dive in. We'll go ahead and move on to the import data in workbook step, which involves opening this Excel file and then resizing this file and your directions so that you mimic that split screen functionality that the test will rely on. If you need to do that, go ahead and take a minute, and then you can start the video again when you are ready to proceed. I am ready, so here we go. Step 2, activate the import data worksheet. So I click on the worksheet to make sure it is my active window, and then I click on Import Data, the sheet name or the tab name, to make sure that that is my activated tab. Step number 3, import the data from the file unit1 costsheet.txt into this worksheet. During the import process, we will transform the data in specific ways. So first, let's go ahead and get that data importing. We'll go to the Data tab. In the Get and Transform Data group, we will use the From Text/CSV button. And if you need to navigate to that folder where you have your practice files stored, you can do that. Desktop for me, Excel Unit 1, and then I've got my two versions of that cost sheet. I want the TXT version, so I'll single click and import. The import window opens. I'm going to go ahead and use my resizing handle to shrink it up so that I can see my instructions. I have 3 ways that I'm going to transform this data before I load it into my worksheet. So I'm going to use the Transform Data button here. This is going to open my Power Query Editor. Remember, you have a set of tabs along the top of your Power Query Editor. We want to be on the Home tab. Do not mistake the Power Query Editor tab for the ribbon at the top of your actual worksheet. You also have a file and a home and some other things here. So what I like to do is I like to click and drag my title bar of the Power Query Editor over the worksheet's ribbon just so that I can't see it, so that I don't get confused and click the wrong place. All right. Step A here is to remove the last 2 columns of data, the difference amount and the over/under budget, before we import. I'm going to click on difference amount. I'll hold down my control key and I will choose over/under budget so I can select 2 columns at once. On the Home tab of my Power Query Editor, I will go to the Manage Columns button, and under Remove Columns, I will choose Remove Columns. Those 2 columns are now gone. Step A, done. B, use the Replace Values tool to replace the typo landscaping with the correct spelling landscaping, with the note this tool is case sensitive. So we're going to use the Replace Values button here. Again, Power Query Editor, Home tab, Transform group, Replace Values. However, notice these columns are all formatted as either numbers or text. You want to select the column where we are going to be working before you click the Replace Values button. When I click Replace Values, this Replace Values window will open, and it is going to allow me to enter the value that I want to replace in that field. Landscaping, remember case sensitive, so get that capital L in there, and replace it with capital L, landscaping. If you do not have the text column selected, it's a number column instead, you're going to get a little error message indicating that you have the wrong column selected. This value doesn't match what that column is formatted for. So make sure you've got the first column selected before you put in your value to find and your replace with. Then click OK. Keep your eye over here on row 5 and 6 to see the change happen. And there we go. B is done. Now we're on to C, which is remove any blank rows. All we need to do here is come up to our Power Query Editor, Home tab, Reduce Rows group. Under Remove Rows, we will come down here to the Remove Blank Rows option, and any blank rows have now been removed. We will load this data to cell A1 of this worksheet. So this is our close and load button. Look, it comes in two parts. Grab the bottom half because we want a choice about where to load to. So choose the close and load to half of the button. You can leave the default at the top, but down here where it says where do you want to put the data, we have opinions. We want to load this data to cell A1 of this worksheet. So we will click existing worksheet, which is our active sheet here. And right now our active cell is B5, but we want A1. So click on cell A1 instead. Notice the change here, and then click OK. Now the data has been loaded into cell A1, and there it all is. I'm going to go ahead and save my work, and I'll move on to step 4. Still on the import data sheet, import data from the file Unit 1 Cost Sheet CSV. During the import process, we will again transform the data. So once again, we are going to head up to our worksheet. We're going to click the worksheet to make sure it's active. We'll go to our Data tab. We'll come over to Get and Transform Data, and we will again use the From Text CSV button. This time we will choose the CSV version of this cost sheet. A single click, import, and here's our load window. And again, we're being asked to transform the data before we load it to the sheet. So we'll once again click the Transform Data button. And the Power Query Editor opens, same place as before. Notice it is covering my ribbon, which is what I want so I don't get confused. So how do we want to transform this data? First, we want to rename the column header predicted to predicted expenses. So here's the column header. Replace values does not work on column headers. In order to change the name of a column header, you'll need to right-click on the name of the column header and then choose the rename option. Once you choose the rename option, you will be in edit mode and you can add expenses to predicted. E says rename the column header actual to actual expenses. So let's go ahead and do that. Right click, rename, click, and add expenses to the column header and enter to make the change effective. Step C is close and load the new data to the import data sheet in cell A16. So once again, we will come up to the close and load button. We will choose the bottom half so that we can specify where we will close and load to. We will leave the default at table, but under this bottom section, we will choose existing worksheet, and we will scroll down to cell A16 for our import location. We will click OK. And here is the new data loaded into the worksheet at cell A16. Step 5, before we finish this section, correct the comma problems in cell A26 by editing the source data in the CSV file. Verify that your corrections have flowed through to the worksheet. So A26 certainly does have a comma problem. We will need to fix this. The instructions want us to edit the source data. So we are going to go back to our File Explorer, and we will navigate to the file stored wherever you stored it. Mine is in a folder on my desktop. I will open the Unit 1 CSV folder or file with a double click. And I am going to right size column A so that I can find, sure enough, here in cell A11, here's my comma problem. So I'm going to double click to enter edit mode here, and I will prepare my issues. I'll get rid of my M while I'm there, put the commas in the spaces where they belong. I will save, and I will close. As you can see, the changes have not automatically flowed through to my worksheet, so I will need to go to the Data tab, to the Queries and Connections button here, or to the group here, and go to the Refresh All button. I will refresh all. I will right size, and sure enough, my comma problem has been resolved. Let's go ahead and save our work and move on to our next step, which is navigating within workbooks. At this point, I'm going to end this video. This will be step 1. The other steps of the instructions will be demonstrated in other videos so that we can keep these answer key videos bite-sized to help you navigate to exactly the piece that you need to see. So go ahead and save your work. And if you are ready to move on, click Complete and Continue in the Talent window, and it will automatically take you to the answer key for Part 2. We will see you over at Part 2.